Well, hello everybody and welcome to Chef's Baking Blog. Now today I'm going to be making something called Yorkshire Parkin. Now I have made this before on my blog, but I didn't do a video at that time, and I recently had a request to do it again, so that's what I'm going to do. Now Yorkshire Parkin is a cake which is best made and then left for about 3 days for the flavour to fully develop and for the moisture to make it nice and sticky as well. But I'm going to make it and I'm going to taste it today, and then I will store the rest for a few days before eating it. It's usually made in the autumn around bonfire night, November the 5th. But I've had this request, so that's what I'm going to do today. And it's ideal either to eat just as a cake or as a dessert with some cream or some custard or something like that. And the ingredients are 220 grams of butter, which I have in a saucepan, 55 grams of dark treacle, though you could use black treacle, though you could use molasses if you wanted to, 200 grams of golden syrup, and I'm going to mix those, and 110 grams of dark brown sugar. I'm going to mix those together in the saucepan and heat it up, but we don't want, we just want to heat it to melt it. We don't want it hot, we don't want it boiling, just enough to melt the ingredients together. I actually greased these ramekins to make it easier to get the syrup and the treacle out. So I'll put those to one side, carry on with the ingredients. I have 120 grams of medium oatmeal. I have 220 grams of self-raising flour, 2 tablespoons of milk, 2 large eggs, which would be extra large in the USA, and I've just mixed those together. Then I have 4 teaspoons of ground ginger, 2 teaspoons of ground nutmeg, 1 teaspoon of mixed spice, and 1 teaspoon of baking powder. So the first thing to do is to put the butter and the other ingredients onto a very low heat and to warm them through until they've all melted. So we'll do that, and then we'll go on with the dry ingredients. So that's our mixture melted. The sugar hasn't dissolved completely. We wouldn't expect that to, because we've not heated it sufficiently. I'm going to turn the heat off and just set that to one side for a minute, and we'll go on to mixing the rest of the ingredients. So the next thing to do is to put the oats, the flour, the ginger, nutmeg, mixed spice and baking powder all into a large bowl and mix them together. Now I should say I have my oven preheating at 140 Celsius, that's 275 Fahrenheit. The last time I made this I used the fan on the oven and used 120 Celsius. But the cake didn't rise in the middle as much as it did on the outside, so today I'm just going to do with normal heat, 140, and see whether that makes any difference. It didn't affect the flavour, of course, and the cake was still delicious, but maybe it will rise that bit more in the centre to make it more level without the fan. So, having mixed those ingredients together, I'm simply going to pour in the wet ingredients, butter, sugar, molasses and syrup, and I'm going to stir those together. So that's now come together and it's forming quite a thick consistency, but that's going to loosen because now we're going to add the eggs. I'm going to add them a little bit at a time. And I also have an 8-inch square cake tin, 20 centimetres, that I have greased. I've actually also lined the bottom with parchment paper, but that's actually not necessary. I just do it as a matter of course. So that's the last of the egg, and then the final addition is the 2 tablespoons of milk, and mix that together, and we now have a nice wet batter. Because this is wet, it means we have to bake for longer, but it's also what's going to create the moisture in the cake as we leave it for a few days. So the next thing to do is simply to pour that into our prepared cake tin. And with that, I'm going to bake that in the oven for an hour and a half, and then I'm going to take it out and let it cool down before I take it out of the tin. Let it cool down for sort of 15-20 minutes, and then transfer it to a wire rack to cool down. Then I'll come back and show you the result. Okay, well, I'm back with you now, and our parkin is out of the oven. I let it cool in the tin and ran a knife round the edges of the tin just to make sure that the cake was released. It had started to come away from the sides, but I just wanted to be sure. Then I turned it out and let it cool down. I also made a very simple vanilla sauce, but you could put cream or ice cream. You can eat it just by itself as a cake, but you can put cream or ice cream or whatever you want, custard with it if you want it as a dessert. So this is what it looks like, and as I say, it's best to actually leave this for about 3 days in an airtight container so that all the moisture and the stickiness and the flavour really comes through. At the moment it's not sort of moist and sticky as it will be, but I just want to taste it for the purposes of the video. But if you leave it for 3 days in an airtight container, it develops the flavour so much more. So we'll have a taste of it. That really is wonderful. It's actually nice and light, and you get the gingery flavour. It's not too strong. I mean, there's 4 teaspoons of ginger in the cake, and there's 2 teaspoons of nutmeg and the mixed spice as well. But it's nice and spicy and very, very light. And as I say, it's going to be very moist if you leave it for a few days. So that's going to be it for this recipe. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below the video and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen, as ever, there will be an eye which would take you to my blog and the recipe on my blog, and I would put a link below the video to that as well. And I will be back with you with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.